Jordan Peterson wasn't smiling when he stepped onto the stage in New York City that night. This wasn't one of his academic lectures. This wasn't about abstract philosophy or political polarization. This was personal, raw, intimate. The backdrop. Read in bold crimson letters: sex, power, and the narcissist. Hidden manipulations and modern relationships. The crowd was unlike his usual audience. It wasn't full of university students or conservative thinkers. It was packed with people who had been through something. Survivors, listeners, silent victims, women and men who had walked away from relationships confused, broken, and ashamed without understanding why. Peterson leaned toward the mic. His voice was low, deliberate. I need you to listen very carefully tonight, because I'm about to tell you 5 sexual secrets narcissists don't want you to know. And once you understand them, they'll never be able to control you again. The audience froze. You could hear someone in the 5th row draw in a sharp breath. Peterson paused, eyes scanning the crowd. Sex is not just pleasure. It's not just biology. Sex, when used by a narcissist, becomes a weapon. And most people don't realize they've been wounded until years later. He raised one finger. Secret number 1. For narcissists, sex is not about connection. It's about conquest. Peterson's voice sharpened. A healthy person sees intimacy as an expression of vulnerability, trust, and bonding. But the narcissist? No. For them, it's a game of dominance. The moment becomes a transaction, not of love, but of ego inflation. He told the story of a woman named Laura, who had sent him a letter after one of his talks. She had spent 7 years with a man who made her feel chosen during sex, but discarded her emotionally every other hour. She confused his desire with love, Peterson said. But for the narcissist, sex is proof they've won you. Not that they care for you, the audience murmured. Nods. Silent recognition. Secret number 2. Narcissists mirror your fantasies to trap you. Peterson now turned to a more clinical tone. Narcissists are emotional con artists. In the early stages of the relationship, they listen intently. Not because they care, but because they're gathering data. They want to know what turns you on, what you've never had, what you dream of, and then they become it. He described a man named Derek, who seduced women by pretending to share their deepest values. He studied them. Peterson said he became their ideal partner until he didn't need to pretend anymore. He looked over the rim of his glasses. They weaponize fantasy, and when the illusion breaks, they blame you for noticing. A woman in the 3rd row quietly wiped away tears. Secret number 3. Narcissists alternate between intensity and withdrawal to keep you addicted. Now the tone shifted. Darker, more urgent. Peterson described what psychologists call intermittent reinforcement. The push-pull dynamic narcissists use. One day, they're passionate, wild, whispering everything you've ever wanted to hear. The next day, they're cold, distant, cruel. They withhold affection, touch, and approval. He continued, your nervous system starts to chase the high like a drug. You don't know when the good version will come back, so you try harder. You compromise more. You start to believe you're the problem. The audience sat still. A young man clenched his fists. Peterson leaned forward. This is not love. This is psychological imprisonment. And the cell is built with unpredictable sex and false intimacy. Secret. #4. Narcissists use sex as a tool of punishment or reward. He paced slowly now, his voice quieter, but more intense. Real love doesn't dangle intimacy like a carrot, but narcissists do. He described how sex becomes conditional in these relationships. Did you agree with me today? Did you flatter me enough? Did you submit when I told you to? And if not, he asked, you're ignored, frozen out, or worse, shamed. He paused for effect, and when they do reward you, it feels euphoric, powerful. You think you've earned their love back, but it's not love, it's control. He quoted a woman's letter. He only touched me when I obeyed. I stopped being his partner. I became his project. People in the crowd nodded slowly, knowingly. A therapist in the 2nd row whispered, that's exactly what I've seen. Secret number 5. Narcissists will eventually devalue you no matter how much pleasure you give them. Peterson stood still. His voice turned cold. This is the most painful truth of all. He said, even if you become everything they said they wanted, even if you give them ecstasy, adoration, and loyalty, they will discard you emotionally. Because to a narcissist, novelty always outranks loyalty. He explained the idealized value discard cycle narcissists follow. They lift you up, put you on a pedestal, then slowly erode your self-worth. And by the time you realize it, you don't even recognize yourself. He held up his hands. This isn't about sex. This is about identity, and narcissists are predators who use sex to consume yours. The room sat in heavy silence. Not one cough. Not one phone buzzed. Then Peterson changed gears. But here's what narcissists don't expect. He said, they don't expect you to wake up, to connect the dots, to say, I know what this is now when I won't play the role you wrote for me. He listed 3 steps toward emotional clarity. 1. Name the pattern. Once you name it, you break its power. Narcissists thrive in your confusion. 2. Reclaim your desires. They conditioned you to want their approval. Rewire yourself to want truth, safety, and mutual respect instead. 3. Cut the addiction to their praise. It feels like love. It's not. It's manipulation. Real love is consistent, kind, and reciprocal. A man raised his hand. But what if I still want them? Peterson responded gently. You don't want them. You want the fantasy they offered you, and it never existed. Let it go. As the talk ended, a line of people waited to speak to him. They didn't want selfies. They wanted to say thank you. They wanted to cry. They wanted to tell their story for the first time. And Peterson listened. Later that night, his speech went viral. Within 24 hours, survivors across TikTok started a tag called #NarcSexTruths. A flood of anonymous Reddit posts appeared under r Escaping Narcissism. Quoting Peterson's talk podcast dissected his 5 sexual secrets line by therapists began, referring patients to the clip as part of their recovery. Peterson gave one final comment to a reporter the next morning. Narcissists win because we stay silent. But once you know the truth, once you say it out loud, they lose power. And you begin to return to yourself. And somewhere in Arizona, a woman who had just watched the talk for the 3rd time finally texted her ex, "You don't owe me anymore. I see through it. Goodbye." She smiled, not with sadness but with freedom. When Jordan Peterson returned to the stage in San Francisco just a week after his now viral talk on 5 sexual secrets narcissists don't want you to know, he was met with a different kind of energy. It wasn't silence this time. It was tension, purpose, pain. Survivors from all walks of life sat in the audience, some holding hands, some alone. Men and women who had walked away from toxic relationships carrying emotional bruises invisible to everyone but themselves. Jordan stepped forward, calm but unflinching. He wore no microphone, no slides, just his voice and a chair. "There's something I didn't fully explain last time," he began. "I told you the secrets, the patterns, the signs narcissists use in the realm of sex and intimacy. But I didn't tell you what's underneath those tactics." He sat down. The room leaned in. Underneath it all is the addiction to control. Sex is simply the most powerful lever narcissists use to dominate not just your body, but your identity, your self-worth, your very reality. He paused. "And if you want to escape it, if you want to take back what was stolen, you need to understand 3 things. How narcissists use sex for power, how they manipulate your psychology, and how to dismantle the entire illusion." Then he began. -1. Sex becomes a stage for psychological control. Sex, Peterson said, in a healthy relationship is a place of vulnerability. It's where walls come down. But for narcissists, it's where the mask comes on, not off. He explained how narcissists use intimacy as theater. They perform. They mimic affection. They dramatize passion. And they study your reactions like a predator tracks prey. A woman in the front whispered, "It always felt fake, but I blame myself." Peterson nodded. "They want you to doubt yourself. If you feel used, that's because you were. And they hide that fact by making every intimate moment seem special." He stood again. "But if the only time you feel truly seen is in the bedroom, man, everywhere else you feel ignored, criticized, or manipulated, that's not intimacy. That's entrapment." -2. Control through sexual validation. Oh, the tone grew sharper. Narcissists often withhold or weaponize sex based on how well you perform for them emotionally. He turned to a man in the crowd. "Did she only touch you when you agreed with her?" The man blinked, stunned. "Yes, exactly," Peterson continued. "Did she shame you for expressing needs constantly? That's not love. That's control disguised as intimacy." He cited several studies showing narcissistic partners often engage in a pattern called approach avoidance intimacy, where sexual affection is doled out as a reward for compliance. and withheld as a punishment for defiance. It doesn't take long, Peterson said, before the victim becomes obsessed with earning approval. You perform. You suppress needs. You try to please them sexually so they'll love you emotionally. He looked around slowly, but they never do. The silence hit like thunder. -3. The mirror trap. Narcissists make you feel it's all your fault. Peterson now shifted to the most insidious tactic. They don't just dominate you through sex. They convince you that you are the broken one, that you're too needy, too sensitive, too demanding. He described the process of gaslighting. In the bedroom, you ask for gentleness. They call you weak. You ask for consistency. They say you're clingy. You cry after feeling used, and they say you're manipulating them with emotion. He pointed to a quote on the screen behind him. Greater than they take your longing for connection and turn it into proof that you're defective, a retired therapist. In the audience stood and said, "This is textbook narcissistic trauma bonding." Peterson nodded. Yes, and the moment you accept their version of you, you begin to shrink. You edit yourself. You become easier to control. -4. The false intimacy loop spoke slower now. Every toxic sexual encounter with a narcissist follows a loop: seduction, peak, withdrawal, blame, and then re-seduction. They know exactly how to reignite the chemistry when they sense you pulling away. He explained how this creates a dopamine spike, similar to gambling addiction. You don't stay because of the good times. You stay because you hope they'll return, and every time they do briefly you think, maybe it was me, maybe we're healing. He paced. But it's not healing. It's a cycle, a loop designed to keep you tethered to someone who will never give you real safety. -5. The exit is psychological, not just physical. No, Peterson raised his voice. Leaving the narcissist's bed is not the same as leaving the narcissist's power. He emphasized that many survivors technically leave but stay mentally and emotionally entangled. You still dream about them. You still doubt your memory. You still wonder, what if I just done more? He paused. That's not love. That's trauma. He outlined 3 steps to psychological exit. Step 1. Name the pattern. Not the person. Don't obsess over whether they're a real narcissist. He said, focus on what they do. If it walks like manipulation, talks like control, and leaves you empty, it's abuse. He added, label the pattern. That makes it repeatable, recognizable, and defeatable. Step 2. Rebuild your identity outside their narrative. Peterson told the story of a man named Carlos who escaped a 4-year toxic relationship and didn't date for a year. Instead, he journaled, went to therapy, took classes, and most importantly, he asked himself questions he hadn't asked in years. What do I want? What do I need? What do I deserve? Peterson faced the crowd. You can't heal if you're still trying to win their approval. You have to start rebuilding from the inside out. Step 3. Create a safe mirror community. The narcissist was your mirror, Peterson said, and they distorted your reflection every day. He explained that healing requires new mirrors, friends, support groups, therapists, people who reflect back the real you without agenda. You need someone to say, you're not crazy, you're not broken, you're not weak, you were targeted. A woman in the audience wept softly. Peterson didn't rush. He let it sit. -6. The empowerment shift. From victim to author spoke again, now standing tall. They took your body, your boundaries, your story, but they don't get to write the ending. He described the journey of post-traumatic growth, a reality that people who survive narcissistic abuse can become stronger, clearer, more resilient than ever before. You've lived through fire. Now use the ashes to grow something unbreakable. He walked slowly across the stage. You will love again. You will trust again. But this time it will be real, not rehearsed. Not rehearsed intimacy with a hollow center. And then he closed with this. Sex should never leave you questioning your worth. It should never make you feel like you vanished, and it should never be used as a leash. He looked up. If someone uses your deepest intimacy to make you feel small, you do not owe them another night, another answer, another apology. You owe yourself a return to the truth. The room erupted into a quiet, standing ovation, not from applause, from recognition, from freedom. That night, thousands logged off their exes' blocked profiles. Others packed bags. Some opened therapy tabs. Others made a phone call to say, I'm done. Because Jordan Peterson had made something painfully clear. Narcissists don't just steal your body. They steal your story. But the moment you reclaim the pen, they no longer control the ending.